Welcome back to Woman is Empowered by HTR, and I'm your host, Remy Fry.
And I am the world's best co host, Brianna, also known as BB. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Today's episode is one of the hardest conversations we have every year, but also one of the most important. We are talking about the holidays on death row, what they really look like, what they feel like, and what most important people never see. Because while the world is decorating trees, gathering around tables, exchanging gifts, men and women on death row are facing one of the loneliest, most emotional, painful times of the year, unfortunately.
That's right. The holidays magnify everything. It's like we have a magnifying glass looking directly at our families experiencing joy, hope, and ourselves experiencing grief and loss. For men and women on death row, the holidays are not always filled with warmth and celebration. They are devoid of those things, and those feelings are absent. There's an absence of family, an absence of physical touch, absence of freedom, absence of justice, and oftentimes an absence of hope.
Yeah.
So, with
One
that
thing.
being said, we're going to transition into the first segment. We're going to talk about, the holidays and how that can affect men and women on death row. So let's start there.
Yeah. Um, One thing that people don't understand is how quiet the holidays are on death row. There's no Christmas mornings, no Christmas trees, no Thanksgiving tables, no New Year's countdowns. Instead, there's silence. Cells close earlier. Movement is restricted. Staffing is thinner. Visits are cut. Sometimes they don't have visits during holidays. Programs are often canceled, and so many incarcerated people, mail slow down, which means letters, cards, and photos may not arrive on time or at all. For someone already isolated 23 hours a day, that silence can be crushing. So that's why I say it's very important to answer that phone and stay connected as much as you can to your loved one during this time of the holidays.
Um, Before we segue, um, I just want to, it's on my heart to say, I just want to say that we at HDR understand that people do bad things. And we are under the impression that, or we are under the understanding that sometimes people cannot be rehabilitated, or sometimes people are not well enough to be around family and friends and things of that nature. We also acknowledge that there are men and women on death row that are not necessarily guilty, or men and women on death row that have been placed on death row and their case did not warrant them to be placed there. So this is not necessarily for the incarcerated individuals that are not well enough to be around their families. This is more so for incarcerated peoples that are well enough to be around their family and were able to separate their crime from who they are as a person.
Mhm.
A lot of times we cannot do those things because of our emotional ties to people and how their crimes make us feel. Um, so with that heavy thought being placed in the air, I just want to say that silence is not just physical, it's also emotional. Um, Holidays remind people of what they've lost. Parents who have passed away while being incarcerated, children who have grown up without them being in their lives, and family traditions that no longer exist, friends that no longer call. things of that nature. Many men and women on death row uh spend the holidays with reopened wounds that don't ever actually fully heal. So the holidays is a very sad time for a lot of men and women on death row, and a lot of times they are reminded of what they have lost,
Mhm.
things of that nature.
And family, from a distance, their families distant, so they're not close with their families during the holiday, and that's hard. Imagine knowing your family is gathering, but you can't be there. You can't hug your mother, your father, you can't hold your child, um, you can't sit at the table. Some people don't even get a phone call. They be wanting to call their families, but sometimes their family is so busy during the holidays that they don't answer. Some families can't afford the cost of answering the phones. Some families can't afford to come and visit during the holidays. Some relationships are fractured by trauma, distance, or shame. And, for those who don't, get a call, it's hard. You know, Distance without warning, love reduces to minutes. And some guys don't have family to call. They don't have the money on their tablet to call their friends during the holidays or anybody. They don't have anyone to call during the holidays. So this is the time that if you do have a loved one, if you are connected with someone on death row, stay connected because this is the hardest moment of their life because when they do call, they're hearing everybody laugh and hey, hand me some of that turkey, hand me some of them yams, and that can bring sadness, and so we have to keep praying for them because that's very hard. It's very hard. It really is.
It is. Um, Families are hurting too, you know. It's hard when like you're sitting at a table, you got eight chairs, and the person that's supposed to be in the eighth chair is on death row. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or and even if the person had, life in prison or whatever the case may be, um, when you add the factor of death row on anything, it adds a sense of ending prematurely, a sense of abrupt change, because we don't know when these people are going to get dates. So we're constantly looking at that eighth chair, not knowing if that person is going to be alive, not knowing if this will be the last Thanksgiving that I've not seen this person here with us. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty that's added when you have a person that's on death row.
Hmm.
So it's hard not only on the people that are incarcerated but also on their families.
Yeah. Yeah. Because imagine a mother, knowing that her child is on death row and he's not at the table on Christmas or Thanksgiving. He's not opening up them presents, that can be stressful on a mother, a strain on the mother, wondering what he's eating, wondering is he warm, wondering is he okay? Because being locked in the cell for 23 hours, 24 hours now because it's a holiday, now they really can't get out and do nothing. Like today, some of the guys they said they couldn't get out and have rec because they're shorthanded. And quite naturally, it's the holidays. So they didn't get
Mhm.
out and have rec. They didn't get out and have the showers they needed. So, and then it's the holidays. So now no shower, no rec, no family, no phone calls. If like I said, sometimes they can't call their family because family's out shopping. Family is out, socializing with other. And like you
Or
said,
he's
it's
at
hard on the
work.
family.
A lot of people
Yeah,
work on the holidays too.
yeah, yeah, and like you said, it's hard on some family members. I know it's a stressful thing for me just to be an advocate for these men to know that I am blessed to have this holiday. I'm blessed to be out here on the earth and living in a home, and they're in a dark place right now, and they can't have that Christmas tree. They can't come out their cell and sing the holiday songs and have the turkey and everything. They're just in a cell, just thinking and wishing and dreaming they could be with their family. And, for many men and women on death row, faith becomes survival during the holidays. Not religious, but faith. Faith that that they still matter. Faith that their life has meaning. Faith that God has not forgotten them. And, I receive letters where men tell me, Remy, is Christmas the hardest day of the year? Christmas is the hardest day of the year for me. I know because I'm not very close to my family. So that's a hard time because I'm alone a lot. So, if it wasn't for prayer, I wouldn't make it through December. And so I pray for them just like, they pray for me. They pray alone in those concrete cells and not for gifts, but they pray for strength and they pray for their families. They pray just to, maybe make it home.
To live.
Yeah.
Shit. A lot of these men again are on death row.
Yeah.
Sometimes, honestly, sometimes these men on death row are literally praying that they don't get that execution date, or
Hmm.
praying that they can watch their family grow up, or praying that they can at least get life without parole, praying that just praying about just being alive. And that's really, it's amplified it's amplified during the holidays, because even though the holidays is a time where we're supposed to be the most connected, these people that are on death row, this has to be some of the most isolated times in the year, in the entire whole year.
And they shut down a lot during the holidays
They do.
because,
A lot of our
they
guys shut down too.
yeah, because they're already going through the pain of being on death row. And so during the holidays, they shut down because they are hurting. They're hurting that they're in a place where they just can't enjoy their family and they can't enjoy the holiday. They start to reminisce about when they were growing up. They start to reminisce about, the Christmas they had, as a kid, the Christmas trees, the food, the fellowship, the hugs. A lot of guys said during the holidays, they missed the hugs. One guy said, I can't remember the last time my family hugged me, and sometimes they just lay there on their bunks and close their eyes and they think about that. And that's a sad, moment to hear them. Because I know a lot of times during the guys, during the holidays, they write me and I read the pain in their letters. I read the pain. I hear the cries. I read the cries. Um, and I read the sadness. And people don't understand. All I hear is accountability, accountability. Well, if they done the crime, they got to pay the price. That's all I hear. That's all I hear. And I understand all that. But that should not be with their lives. That should not be mean that they shouldn't be able to have contact visits, that they shouldn't be able to hug their families. They should, they should be able to hug them. They should be able to give their mom or their dad a kiss, on the cheek or whatever, hold their kid. One guy, they said that when he first got charged with, murder, with capital murder, they promised him that he would be able to touch his daughter because she was just born. And they promised him. They lied. He didn't get that. So, here his daughter is a grown woman and he's like, I never have touched her. And to me, holidays, why not let them have contacts where they can hug their families? Why not, have a dinner where they can sit around with their families like you do general population and they be able to fellowship with their families, hug and eat and, and just laugh. I mean, I'm not saying everybody because some of them are mentally, disturbed where they can't. Some of them are dealing with trauma and anger that that they are kind of aggressive. But the ones who are rehabilitated and who can spend time with their family and fellowship and have a dinner, why not? Why not let their immediate families, like their mothers, their fathers, their children's, their wives come in and just have that moment with them because as a state, you're already trying to take them away. You're already trying to kill them. So why not? So, and
It's
I think the holidays
also
right now is important.
excuse me, sorry. It's
Mhm.
also there's something in my eyeball. Rude. Anyway, but it's also we have to remember that December and these times like Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, these are the times where people kill themselves the
Mhm.
most. These are the
Mhm.
most these times suicide and depression are on a rise as we go through the winter months and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So just keep that in mind when you guys are saying things like, "Oh, fry them and electrocute them," and whatever you want to say. It's like we can still humanize the person without necessarily acknowledging the crime that they committed, or without necessarily we can separate the crime from the person. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean that we have to have that person roaming in society. That doesn't mean we have to have that person a free person. Sometimes
Mhm.
it might mean that, sometimes it might not. However, we're going to kill them and they're already suffering.
Mhm.
It almost makes it seem like being on death row is almost makes it seem like it's not that bad, you know? I would much rather want to die than not being able to touch my family, not being able to hug my family, not being able to what's the point? And that's what a lot of these guys think, you know? What's the point? And we get a lot of suicide rates, or I'm sorry, excuse me. We get a lot of men that commit suicide and things of that nature. And it's sad. And
Mhm.
a lot of the times when they're on shared units, when one guy kills themselves, everybody feels that. So it's not even just the person just took the easy way out, because even in prison people still feel, and these guys that we not we but these guys that people like to see as monsters feel some type of way. They
Mhm.
feel that their fellow brother has died. They didn't want the state to take them out, so they took themselves out from the grief of the holidays, things of that nature. I'm speaking from experience. Somebody at my job just killed himself just a few days ago. Like this is real, and this is real. This is like an actual wow. My camera's moving. This is real. This is not like something that's like we're making up, and it's like like this is real life. Like this is what happens on a daily basis. Even from Remy reading the messages of people being sad, or people, being, remorseful, whatever you want to call it. We see these messages every single day. And then you have people on the other side that have never even spoken to these people that are on death row. Never even
Mhm.
spoken to them. And they
Mhm.
have awful things to say about them.
Yeah.
Awful things.
And
Awful
don't
things.
know 'em. Don't know 'em, have never got to know
Have
'em.
never spoke to them. Don't
Never.
have those conversations about how they might miss their family, about how
Mhm.
they've been feeling really sad and they don't have a will to live. And we have almost lost a few of our members to
Mhm.
depression. And it
Mhm.
is very, very, very real. And
Yes.
it makes no sense because if we on the outside, if we can say, hey, I'm overwhelmed, I'm depressed, I feel like I can't, I feel like, I feel like the world would be better off without me. If we can say that and we're free and we have freedom, how do we think that people that are incarcerated feel? That feeling of not being good enough, that feeling of worthlessness is amplified when you're in jail. You know what I'm saying? And then to add
Mhm.
on top of that the anxiety of being on death row, that's even more issues with mental health, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, because 'cause you're watching and then watching. your friend that you're close to, your brother, because you are your brother's keeper. Watching him go to death watch just before the holidays or during the holiday. You move them to death watch because you're preparing to, kill them. That's hard on them. They like this the holiday. I'm watching somebody that I care about go to death watch. They gonna spend 90 days there, and I'm thinking about them during the holidays, thinking, like why do they have to be there? Why couldn't they move them after the holiday? Why did they have to move? Period. So it's a lot. So that's why I always tell families at this moment, stay connected with your loved one on death row. Stay connected with them. Write to them. When they call, answer. Just stay connected, hear them. Because right now it's a painful moment. Just like it's a painful moment for you because they're not with you, it's a painful moment for them because the difference from them is they're stuck in a cell. The difference from you, you can go out and shop and do whatever you want to do. They can't. So that's why I said letters, and advocacy, it matters. This is why letters matter more during the holidays than any other time of the year. A single card can break the silence. Send them a card. I know that they can't get the actual card, but sending it to secures is they just for them to open that up and see it came from somebody. It's important to them. A letter can remind someone they are seeing, a name written in ink. What I mean, they can't get that, but it can, seeing a letter from someone on their tablet that can restore dignity. Advocacy doesn't pause for the holidays. I know we all get busy, but it shouldn't pause for the holidays because it's even more urgent because hope can literally be different between surviving and giving up. You know,
Yeah.
if that makes.
Your participation in advocacy, active participation in advocacy,
Mhm,
determines whether or not this person feels like they have a reason to live. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
And that's why being an advocate during these times is so important because
mm.
if they have nobody, which a lot of these guys don't,
They don't. No
a lot
mother,
of them
no
don't.
father,
There's a
no
lot of our
sister.
guys that have nobody. They
Yeah.
can at least turn to Remy and be like, damn,
Mm,
Remy's gonna send me a message. Remy is there for me. She's gonna write me. I have somebody to talk to every day. I have somebody to laugh with me, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. Or BB's crazy ass man, she's gonna call me and
mhm. Well, I
so
mean, they gonna call you because we
well,
can't
we can't
stand.
call them, but
I wish we
you know,
could. We probably
yeah.
get on their nerves.
Oh my god. If we could
You
every
coming
20
again?
minutes, I'll be like, oh my god. Chris. He'll be like, "What do you want, BB? What? What?"
Especially
They would
during the
be so
holiday.
tired of
Hey,
me.
I'm right here.
They would be so
No,
tired of me because I would
man.
literally never stop calling them. But with all that aside,
Hmm.
um, back segueing back um to faith,
Yeah.
um, this is why our organization exists. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? This is why humanizing death row is what it is. It's because
Yeah.
we don't just advocate when it's convenient. We
Nope.
don't look away when it gets uncomfortable. We don't shut down when things become overwhelming. We can't
Nope.
because
Nope.
we're dealing with men that need somebody. And as an advocate, you have to be there for that person, regardless of,
And say I'm busy. I'm
of
too
how
busy.
hard it is, regardless of what you have to do, regardless of your outside life and stuff like that. Like, as an advocate that's made a commitment to these men and women, it's important that you follow through on that commitment and you make time. As an
Yeah.
advocate, you make time. As an
Yeah.
advocate, you advocate. As an advocate, you you go above and beyond to make sure that that person is getting what they need, to make sure that that
Hmm.
person is being advocated for to the fullest of your extent.
Hmm. Yeah. And, I want to say a message to our listeners. If you're listening today, we want you to remember this. Lean in, while you're celebrating, someone is, surviving. While you're opening gifts, someone is praying for strength. While you're surrounded by people, someone is alone. So don't ever forget that, but you can change that. You can write a letter, like I said, you can say a prayer, you can support advocacies. Um, you can speak up against the system that believes in death instead of justice. Um, you can, fight for your loved one. This is all the family members in Texas who has a loved one, a friend, or whoever in Texas. I know Texas doesn't have the contact visits. So fight for your loved one. Make
Fight
some
for those
noise.
visits.
Yeah,
Oklahoma did
make
it,
some
you know?
make some, noise because Texas needs that. They need that contact. I hear from so many guys that they just miss that hug. They just wish that someone can hug them, someone can just touch their hand without them feeling like they're a monster, because the only time that they're touched is when they're taking them to their shower and they're pulling on them. They're barely, even being gentle. They're driving them to their shower like they're monsters. So they don't get that hug, that human touch. And they miss that. So the holidays are important. So families, let's start fighting for that. Let's start fighting for you to have an opportunity to have that dinner with your loved one, even if it is in a prison, even if they are on death row. Fight for it. Because if you don't fight for them, then who will? You're their family. You're their friends, advocates. Let's come together, start making some noise, phone calls, so that these men can get the contact visits, so these men can get the holidays they deserve. For us to have a chance as advocates to go inside the prisons and serve them meals. That's my dream, to go inside the prisons and serve them breakfast, lunch, and dinner during the holidays so that they can get a hot meal and see some people besides the guards. See us, a smile, a warm smile, and a pleasant smile and a pleasant sight, someone that they know that really, really, really cares. So, let's start fighting for that. Let's come together as one and fight and pray. And, like I said, we can pray all day, but we got to fight. We got to come together. And nothing should stop you. Don't let the man fear. You shouldn't fear man. You should only fear the man above. So don't fear about what you think people are saying, because you're out there fighting for men and women on death row, because right now it's critical. It's critical. They need us. They need us.
That is true.
Yeah.
Um, again, circling back to our closing point, the holidays should not be about punishment. We should be the Christmas songs. We should be giving. We should be loving. We should be peace, joy, Noel, all of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
the holidays is about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, to the men and women on death row, if you guys are listening, we see you guys. You guys are not forgotten, and your life matters. So, from all of us at Humanizing Death Row, we are holding you all in prayer, advocacy, and in love, not just during the holidays, even though that's when it counts the most, but always. Thank you so much for joining us on 1 Minute Left, powered by Humanizing Death Row. Um, we have lots of social media that we need y'all to follow. So follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at prayer_advocate. Follow us on YouTube. You can follow our podcast, 1 Minute Left, powered by HDR, on Spotify as well as Podbean, if that is what you are using to listen to this podcast today. And
And remember,
join our website. Look at our website, humanizingdeathrow.org, and make sure you guys sign those petitions for Talon Carter, for Christopher Love, and for Kendrick Simpson. We have just added his petition to our website. So make sure you guys go sign, and make sure you guys never stop advocating, because we can do nothing without you guys. So
absolutely. Absolutely. So, like she said, please make sure you guys advocate. Please make sure you guys send out these letters, cards. start sending them out now because so they can get to them on time for Christmas. Just show your love for the men and women on death row because remember, it's never too late to save a life. And, they need us and we're trying to save their life. We're trying to abolish the death penalty. Again, I'm Remy Fry and I am the founder of HDR and spiritual advocate or advisor or prayer advocate or whatever.
I don't know what side
And
she's on.
whichever one, I'm on your right. I'm on your right. But good
And my
night.
name, of course, is Brianna, aka BB. I am the social media and communications manager and everything manager for Humanizing Death Row. So catch me on social media, on our Facebook pages for BB Breaks. Catch us on social media for updates about the death penalty news, things of that nature. And yeah, thank you so much for
All
joining.
right.
1 minute left. That's
All
the
right.
minute. That's the tea.
All right.
All
Good
right.
night and God
Good
bless you
night.
guys. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Mwah.
Bye.